Oh, gosh. Oh, my goodness. We are diving into it one more time, man. There's a lot of Canucks conversation about who's staying and who's going. Because earlier today, we saw the Kevin Lankinen signing. Okay, great. We made a video about that in the morning. Then, just like 20 minutes ago, we had another segment talking about Thatcher Demko because with Demko's spot on the team now being in jeopardy, and I think it's very fair to say that it is in jeopardy because Kevin Lankinen got signed to a pretty long deal. Now we are talking about whomever else it is on the Vancouver Canucks that also needs a contract. And we have been discussing this name at length to a reasonable capacity for the past few weeks, whether or not one Brock Boeser is going to find a way to stay in Van. The idea floating around was, hey, Vancouver re-signs their guys quickly. They got Marcus Pettersson to a deal, they got Drew O'Connor to a deal, they got Kevin Lankinen to a deal. But Brock Boeser still needs a contract. He's signed on to the end of this season, making $6.65 million a year at 27 years old. And after posting up a 40-goal year last season in 23-24, he's on pace for 28 goals this year. Also on pace for 55 assists. Now, that type of season would actually be roughly what he's been in the territory of in the past few years. Before his 70-point 40-goal year last season, he had pretty much the same point production, just with more assists and fewer goals. He scored a bit this season. It's not like he's having a terrible year, but it's certainly not to the same capacity that he was able to produce at before. When JT Miller was on this team, feeding Boeser left, right, and center, throwing pucks on goal, and getting those rebounds to go in at Boeser's hand, Boeser became a 40-goal guy. This season, though, things haven't been as smooth. Compile this with the fact that Brock Boeser just isn't really the fastest guy in general, and you start to think about him in a way that debates whether or not his role on the team really is useful for what Tocchet's system brings. Boeser's not the fastest guy, and playing with a guy like Elias Pettersson, who also isn't really the fastest guy, playing on a line with Jake DeBrusk, who, I mean, he's got some speed, but he's not really like a play driver in the same way that JT Miller was, and you think about Elias Pettersson, he should be a play driver, but quite frankly, he's not. It's why you saw Boeser get placed with Drew O'Connor and Filipino, two guys who are very, very fast. And for the most part, it worked. I mean, Boeser's got 2 goals in his last 3 games, so that's fine. But right now, the conversation still is revolving around contracts and whether or not Brock can be brought back by this Vancouver Canucks organization if he fits what they're trying to build, if he is a part of the future. With that in mind, let's go out there and look at this tweet made by Cam Robinson. This was from about an hour ago. I'm told that both Brock Boeser and the Canucks understand what each side wants, and it's not the same thing at this point. Teams continue to call on him, while the club considers the value of using him as their own rental for a playoff run if common ground can't be found. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, so this is pretty bad, I'd say. It implies that the Vancouver Canucks would be okay with using Brock Boeser as their own rental, quote unquote. You might be thinking to yourself, what the hell does that mean? An own rental? Well, here's the thing. When you make a trade for a rental, usually you trade away a prospect or a pick or something for that rental asset. You're trading for a Mikko Rantanen whose contract is expiring at the end of the year. For Vancouver, it seems like the possibility of Brock Boeser being an own rental is very well there. How the Vancouver Canucks could look at Boeser and instead of saying, well, we got to re-sign you or we got to trade you, because if we trade you, then we can get some assets back. If we re-sign you, then of course we keep you and we keep the value that you bring. But the own rental option is the opposite of that. It's like, okay, well, we want to go on a playoff run, so let's just keep you. Even though we know you're probably going to leave because we can't agree on a contract, we're just going to keep you because we're going to use you as our own rental. Instead of trading away Lekaramaki for a winger who can score 40 goals in a season, we'll just keep you, Brock. And now we are seeing Canucks fans panic about this. That would be an absolutely nuclear option at this point. This team lacks depth, assets, picks, and prospects. You absolutely cannot allow Boeser to walk for nothing. That would be a devastating move and surely one driven by an owner desperate for playoff revenue. let's go out there and look at some other tweets. So, Thomas Drance responded to Cam Robinson's report about Boeser and the Canucks not being on the same page. This matches what I'm hearing almost exactly. The Canucks' performance over the next 7 games is going to matter a lot in terms of shaping their own rental decisions with their remaining pending UFAs in Boeser, Suter, and Derek Forbort. A reply here asks, Drance, using players as an own rental is up there for the stupidest thing going in pro sports. If the player is already on your team, how is it a rental? Losing Brock for nothing is incredibly short-sighted. I'm not a huge fan of it, especially given the Canucks' positioning, but basically the cost of keeping him is opportunity cost as opposed to actually spending assets, so I think the concept makes sense, even if I do disagree with it. There's no way management thinks the team can make noise if they get in, right? I'd hope not, but they played good hockey before the break. I'd understand them wanting to use what time they have available and letting the situation breathe. So with this extended time off, Vancouver has been able to, hopefully, get all their guys settled back in. Hopefully Elias Pettersson isn't too hurt, because, he probably is hurt, who really knows. But the Canucks are hoping they're able to build off of the momentum they had after the JT Miller trade with the 3 wins in a row against San Jose. Admittedly, that one was a really bad game. And then against Colorado and Toronto. You want to see the Vancouver Canucks continue to do well. And if they do well, it's like, okay, well, we have momentum here. We have a playoff hope. We can stick around with Brock Boeser. Either we open up our wallets a little more for him because we feel that he actually has what it takes, or if we can't agree on anything, we can just use him as an own rental and let him walk for free in free agency. Rick Dhaliwal said earlier today that there's crickets when it comes to the Brock Boeser contract talks. Why is that? As we have said, it seems like Vancouver is really willing to sign guys when they know they want them back. Drew O'Connor, Lankin, and Marcus Petey, they have these guys on lock. I want you back, Jackson 5 style. But Brock, they are not doing that same level of committing to. And when you think about the team they want to build, they want a fast team, they want a team that's hard to play against, they want a team that swarms opponents with speed. Drew O'Connor, Philip Hedl, Elias Pettersson at one point was fast, not anymore. JT Miller, as much as people like to dog on him, especially when he doesn't backcheck, the guy does play with some intensity and pace that few other Vancouver Canucks forwards have. You have the Joshuas, you have the Garlands, and, guys, oh my god, I had to pause the recording for a bit because there was literally just an earthquake here. Yeah, apparently we're getting earthquakes now. This Vancouver Canucks news is so big that it's shaking the core of the ground that we walk on. But yeah, sorry for the aside there. Just wanted to get that out there. If the majority of folks who are watching this video are in the Lower Mainland and you felt that, then hey, let me know in the comments what was your experience. My whole room shook for a bit, and then it kind of waved back and forth as if it was like a surfboard on water for, let's say, 3 or 4 seconds afterwards. It was a very trippy experience. But anyways, going back over to Brock Boeser, yeah, there are a lot of other guys that play with pace. The Sherwoods, the Garlands, the Joshuas, even the Blugers, you can say to some extent. Boeser's a little slower. And if he doesn't fit that identity, especially with the lowered production, is he going to get a $7 million AAV extension with the Canucks? Does not seem like it's a possibility at this point, especially since they're so far off, apparently. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, not just about the earthquake, but what are your thoughts about Brock Boeser's future with the Vancouver Canucks? Do you think he does have a future with the Vancouver Canucks? And if they decide to use him as an own rental, they let him walk to free agency and don't trade him away for anything. They're just like, okay, we're going to make the playoffs. Let's use you in the top 6 and then we'll let you go without anything else. What are your thoughts on that? I want you to let me know, how do you feel about the idea of Brock Boeser, like, just not being a part of this team and not getting traded for any assets, letting him go for nothing? Is that a possibility here? Do you think the Canucks actually would willingly go down that path? Evaluate their own roster and their own prospect pool and their stock of draft picks and be like, yeah, we have enough of those. Like, we can risk having Boeser go to free agency for nothing and leave our team if it means we get an extra few games of playoff experience. Like, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Sorry, I gotta go decompress from that gosh darn earthquake. It kind of shook everything up here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.